The beeping was the first thing Sarah heard, rhythmic, insistent, like a digital heartbeat counting down to something she couldn't remember. Her eyelids felt heavy as concrete slabs, but she forced them open to harsh fluorescent light that made her skull throb. She's awake. A woman's voice, sharp with relief, and something else worry. Fear. Sarah tried to focus on the blur of movement beside her hospital bed. Gradually, a face materialized, heart-shaped, with concerned brown eyes and auburn hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. The woman was gripping Sarah's hand so tightly it almost hurt. "Thank God, Sarah. I've been here for 3 days straight." The doctors said. The woman's voice cracked. "They said, you might not wake up." Sarah stared at this stranger who knew her name, who held her hand like they were close. The woman's face was familiar in the way that all faces seemed familiar. When you couldn't place them, like trying to remember a dream after waking. "I'm sorry," Sarah croaked, her throat raw. "Do I know you?" The woman's face crumpled. "It's me, Emma, your best friend since college. We share an apartment, remember? We were in the car together when she stopped abruptly, her eyes filling with tears. Dr. Chen appeared at the foot of the bed, clipboard in hand, his expression carefully neutral. "Ms. Mitchell, how are you feeling? Any pain? Confused?" Sarah admitted, "I don't remember ... anything. The accident, her, even my own last name, apparently." "Retrograde amnesia," Dr. Chen explained gently. "It's not uncommon with traumatic brain injuries. Your memories may return gradually, or they may not return at all. The brain has its own way of protecting itself from trauma." Emma squeezed her hand tighter. "I'll help you remember everything. We'll get through this together, just like we always have." But as Sarah looked at Emma's tear-streaked face, something cold settled in her stomach. Not recognition, the opposite. An instinctive wariness she couldn't explain. Like her body remembered something her mind had forgotten. 2 weeks later, Sarah sat in the apartment Emma claimed they shared, surrounded by evidence of a life she couldn't recall. Photos covered the refrigerator. Sarah and Emma at college graduation, on hiking trips, at parties with arms around each other's shoulders. Every picture they looked inseparable. "Loved these," Emma said, holding up a pair of expensive running shoes. "You'd get up at 5 every morning to run in Central Park. I could never keep up with you." Sarah turned the shoes over in her hands. They felt foreign, like artifacts from someone else's life. "Did I run alone?" "Sometimes. Sometimes with ... Emma hesitated. "With Marcus? Your boyfriend? He's been calling nonstop, but I thought it was too soon for visitors. Boyfriend." Sarah felt another flicker of that inexplicable unease. "Me a picture." Emma's hesitation was barely perceptible, but Sarah caught it. When Emma pulled out her phone, her hands trembled slightly as she scrolled through photos. The man in the picture was handsome, dark hair, kind eyes, genuine smile. He had his arm around Sarah in what looked like a restaurant, both of them laughing at something off camera. Sarah studied her own face in the photo, searching for any spark of recognition. "He looks nice," she said finally. "He is. He loves you so much, Sarah. He's been devastated since the accident. He wanted to be here when you woke up, but I told him you needed time to adjust first." That night, Sarah lay in the bed Emma said was hers, staring at the ceiling. Her body felt wrong in this space, like wearing clothes that belonged to someone else. The room was decorated in soft pastels, not colors that felt like her at all. She preferred deeper shades, richer tones. How did she know that when she couldn't remember her own middle name? She got up and opened the dresser drawers. Everything was organized, neat, expensive. The kind of clothes she might choose for a job interview, not for living. In the bottom drawer, pushed toward the back, she found something different. A small wooden box with a tiny lock. The box felt significant in her hands, heavier than its size suggested. But when she tried the lid, it wouldn't budge. She searched for a key, but found nothing. "Sarah." Emma's voice came through the wall. "Are you okay? I heard you moving around." "Fine," Sarah called back, quickly returning the box to its hiding place, just restless. But she wasn't fine. Every instinct told her she was missing something crucial. something Emma wasn't telling her. The question was whether she wanted to remember it. Marcus came to see her on a Thursday morning when Emma was at work. Sarah opened the door to find him standing in the hallway, holding a bouquet of white roses flowers. That should have meant something but didn't. He was taller than he'd appeared in the photos, the kind of solid presence that should have been comforting. When he saw her, his face lit up with pure joy. "Sarah," he said her name like a prayer. "God, I've missed you so much." He moved to embrace her, but she stepped back instinctively. The hurt that flashed across his face made her stomach clench with guilt. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "It's just... I don't remember you. Any of this. It feels strange to hug someone who's essentially a stranger, right? Of course." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that seemed familiar though she couldn't place why. Emma said the amnesia was pretty complete. "I brought these for you." He held out the roses. "White roses were always your favorite, were they?" Sarah took the flowers, trying to feel anything about them. They were beautiful, but they stirred no emotion except a vague sense that something was wrong with the picture. "Would you like some coffee?" she offered. "Emma says I used to drink a lot of coffee." Marcus smiled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "You lived on coffee. Dark roast, no sugar, just a splash of cream." "You said adding sugar was for people who didn't really like coffee." She prepared the coffee. She found herself moving with practiced efficiency through the kitchen. Her hands knew where things were, even if her mind didn't. Muscle memory, Dr. Chen had called it. "Tell me about us," she said, settling across from him at the small dining table. "How we met? What we did together?" Marcus's face softened. "We met at a bookstore. You were in the mystery section, completely absorbed in some thriller. I asked if you'd recommend something, and you spent 20 minutes explaining why amateur detective novels were superior to police procedurals." Sarah found herself smiling. "It does sound like something I'd do. You have strong opinions about everything. Books, movies, the correct way to load a dishwasher. It's one of the things I loathe." He stopped himself. "One of the things I admired about you." They talked for an hour, Marcus painting a picture of a relationship that sounded perfect on the surface. Quiet dinners, weekend trips, shared books and inside jokes. But something felt off about his stories, like he was describing a movie he'd seen rather than a life he'd lived. "Emma said I was a runner," Sarah mentioned. "Did we run together?" For just a moment, Marcus looked confused. "Running? You weren't really into exercise. You preferred staying in, reading. We used to joke that your idea of a workout was carrying groceries up 3 flights of stairs." Sarah frowned. That directly contradicted what Emma had told her about the morning. Runs, the expensive shoes. "Maybe I started running more recently?" "Maybe," Marcus agreed, but his voice was uncertain. After he left, Sarah sat at the table, staring at the white roses. 2 people who claimed to know her best had given her conflicting information about something as basic as her exercise habits. Either one of them was lying, or her amnesia was more selective than anyone realized. She went to the bedroom and retrieved the locked wooden box. In the kitchen, she found a small knife and carefully worked at the lock until it clicked open. Inside were letters, dozens of them, written in her own handwriting. The one on top was dated 3 weeks before the accident. "Emma, I can't keep pretending anymore. What you did to Marcus, to me, to all of us, it's unforgivable. I trusted you with everything, and you used that trust to destroy my relationship and try to steal my life. I know about the job recommendations you've sabotaged. I know about the lies you've told Marcus about me cheating. I know about the bank account you opened in my name. You have 48 hours to confess everything and make it right. Or I'm going to the police. Our friendship is over either way." The letter slipped from Sarah's numb fingers. Emma, her supposed best friend, the woman who'd been caring for her, who claimed to love her, had betrayed her so completely that Sarah had been ready to have her arrested, and now Emma was the only person in her life, the only one guiding her. Recovery, helping her piece together her identity. The question that made Sarah's blood run cold was simple. What exactly had Emma done to cause that car accident? And how much of Sarah's memory loss was actually convenient fiction? What do you think will happen next? Share your predictions in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling stories. Sarah spent the rest of the day reading through the letters, each one revealing another layer of Emma's deception. The picture that emerged was of a friendship that had turned toxic, with Emma systematically sabotaging Sarah's life while maintaining the facade of being her devoted best friend. The worst letter detailed how Emma had seduced Marcus at a party, then convinced him that Sarah had been cheating first. She'd shown him doctored photos, fake text messages, and a carefully constructed web of lies that had driven him to end their relationship just days before the accident. But according to what Marcus had told her that morning, they'd still been together when the accident happened. Either he was lying about their relationship status, or something had changed between Sarah's final letter and the crash. Sarah photographed each letter with her phone and put them back in the box exactly as she'd found them. If Emma discovered she'd read them, she'd know that Sarah's memory wasn't as blank as she claimed. When Emma came home that evening, Sarah watched her carefully, looking for signs of the manipulative woman described in the letters. But Emma seemed genuinely caring, fussing over Sarah's dinner, asking about her day, suggesting they watch a movie together. "Marcus came by today," Sarah said casually. Emma's smile faltered for just a second. "Oh, how did that go?" "It was nice. He seems like a good guy. Told me some stories about our relationship. I'm glad." Emma settled on the couch beside her, but Sarah noticed she was gripping the remote tightly. "What kind of stories? Just how we met? Things we used to do together?" "He said I wasn't really into exercise, which is funny because you mentioned those running shoes." Emma laughed, but it sounded forced. "Oh, the running was a recent thing. You'd just started a few weeks before the accident." "Marcus probably didn't." "No, you were keeping it as a surprise. You wanted to get in shape for him." The lie came so easily, so smoothly, that Sarah almost believed it herself. But she'd read her own words. "I know about the lies you told Marcus about me cheating." This was just another lie in what must have been a long string of them. "That's sweet," Sarah said. "Must have really loved him, you did." "You were planning to—" Emma stopped herself, shaking her head. "Never mind." "All that? Planning to what? Nothing important? Just future stuff." But Sarah could see the calculation in Emma's eyes, the careful weighing of how much truth to reveal. How much of what Emma had told her about her life was real, and how much was a carefully constructed fiction designed to keep Sarah isolated and dependent on her. That night, Sarah pretended to sleep while Emma moved around the apartment. She heard the soft sound of Emma's phone, then whispered conversation too low to make out the words. Was Emma talking to at midnight? What didn't she want Sarah to hear? The next morning, Sarah waited until Emma left for work, then called Marcus. She needed to hear his version of events leading up to the accident, the real version, not the sanitized story he'd told yesterday. "Sarah, is everything okay?" His voice was immediately concerned. "Can you meet me somewhere? Not here? I need to talk to you about something important." They met at a coffee shop several blocks from the apartment. Marcus arrived first, already seated at a corner table when Sarah walked in. His face brightened when he saw her, but she noticed the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. "You look tired," she observed, settling across from him. "I haven't been sleeping well. This whole situation. It's been difficult. Marcus, I need you to tell me the truth about us, about what happened before the accident." His face went carefully. "Blank. What do you mean? Were we really together when I got hurt? Or had something happened between us?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, stirring his coffee with mechanical precision. When he looked up, his eyes were pained. "We'd broken up," he admitted, "about a week before the accident." "Sarah, I need you to know that I regretted it immediately. I was coming to find you that night to apologize, to ask you to take me back. Why did we break up? I thought, ... I believed you were cheating on me." Emma showed me photos, text messages. She said you'd confided in her about some guy from work. I was hurt and angry, and I said things I didn't mean. Sarah's heart raced. "But you don't think I was cheating anymore?" "No. After the accident, when I was going through your things at the hospital, I found some letters you'd written. Letters about Emma, about what she'd been doing. I realized I'd been manipulated." His voice turned bitter. "By the time I figured it out, you were in a coma, and Emma was the only one allowed to make decisions about your care. What kind of decisions? Limiting visitors? Controlling information? She told the doctors you'd be too overwhelmed to see me, that it might set back your recovery. She convinced them she was acting in your best interests. Sarah felt sick. Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Do you think Emma had anything to do with the accident? Marcus's cup froze halfway to his lips. What do you mean? Was she in the car with me? Do you know where we were going? Why we were out together? She said you'd called her upset about our breakup. She went to pick you up from your office. You were driving to some restaurant to talk, and a drunk driver ran a red light. He set down his cup with shaking hands. Sarah, are you suggesting that Emma deliberately? I don't know what I'm suggesting, but too many things don't add up. The way she's controlling my recovery, the conflicting stories about my life, the way she seems more concerned with keeping people away from me than helping me remember. Marcus leaned forward intently. What aren't you telling me? Sarah glanced around the coffee shop, making sure no one was listening. Found some letters I wrote before the accident. Letters that suggest Emma had been sabotaging my life for months, maybe years. I was planning to cut her out completely. Jesus. Marcus ran both hands through his hair. And now she's the only person in your life, the only one helping you rebuild your identity. Marcus, what if my memory isn't as damaged as everyone thinks? What if I'm choosing not to remember because the truth is too dangerous? What do you mean? What if I remember Emma's betrayal, and I'm pretending not to because I know she'd hurt me again if she realized I knew the truth? The idea hung between them, terrifying in its implications. If Sarah was right, then Emma had successfully isolated her from everyone who might help her remember the truth. And if Emma had been willing to destroy Sarah's life before the accident, what might she do to keep her secret safe now? We need to be careful, Marcus said finally. If you're right about this, then Emma's dangerous. She's already proven she's willing to manipulate and lie. If she thinks you're getting your memory back, ... I know. Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. That's what scares me most. The tension is building. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which character you're rooting for. Your support helps me create more incredible stories like this one. Over the next few days, Sarah and Marcus developed a careful plan. They would meet secretly while Emma was at work, piecing together the truth about the months leading up to the accident. Marcus brought documents he'd found in Sarah's belongings, bank statements showing unauthorized transfers, emails that had been sent from her account without her knowledge, employment records showing missed opportunities that Emma had sabotaged. Picture that emerged was of a systematic campaign of destruction. Emma hadn't just been a bad friend, she'd been methodically stealing Sarah's identity, her money, and her relationships. Look at this, Marcus said, spreading out bank statements across the coffee shop table. 3 months before the accident, someone opened a credit card in your name and ran up $15,000 in debt. The bills were being sent to a poll box you never knew existed. Sarah studied the charge, expensive clothes, jewelry, spa treatments. Emma's been wearing some very nice things lately. I assumed she'd gotten a promotion. And here Marcus pointed to another document. Your boss at the marketing firm said you'd been missing important meetings, turning in subpar work. But according to your calendar, you weren't missing meetings. Emma had been calling in sick for you on days when you had major presentations. She was making me look unreliable. More than that, she was positioning herself to take over your accounts. Look. Marcus showed her an email chain between Emma and Sarah's boss. Emma suggested that since you were going through a difficult time, she could handle some of your client relationships temporarily. She was already taking your place before the accident ever happened. Sarah felt a cold rage building in her chest. How long had this been going on? Based on what I found, at least 6 months, maybe longer. Marcus hesitated. Sarah, there's something else. I hired a private investigator to look into the accident. The police report says Emma was driving when it happened, not you. What? Emma told everyone you'd insisted on driving because you were upset, but the witness statements say the driver was a redhead Emma's hair color. And the airbag deployment pattern is consistent with someone of Emma's height, not yours. Sarah's hand started shaking. She was driving. And she let everyone believe it was my fault. It gets worse. The investigating officer noted that there were no skid marks before impact. None. Either Emma didn't see the other car coming, or she didn't try to stop. Sarah's voice was barely audible. Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. We can't prove she did it intentionally, but we can prove everything else. The identity theft, the fraud, the manipulation. Have enough to go to the police. Sarah pulled her hand away, her mind racing. No, not yet. What do you mean, not yet? We go to the police now. She'll know I've been lying about my memory. If she's willing to commit fraud and possibly attempted murder, what do you think she'll do when she realizes I remember everything? Marcus's face went pale. You do remember, don't you? You remember all of it. Sarah nodded slowly. I remembered everything the day I woke up. The accident, the betrayal, all of it. But when I saw Emma sitting beside my bed, claiming to be my devoted friend, I knew I had to pretend. I knew she'd try to finish what she started if she realized I knew the truth. Sarah, you can't keep living with her. It's not safe. I know, but I need more evidence. Something that proves she caused the accident intentionally. The fraud charges might get her a few years in prison, but attempted murder, that's life. Are you planning? Sarah's smile was sharp, dangerous. I'm going to give Emma exactly what she thinks. She wants complete control over my life. And while she's busy playing the devoted caregiver, I'm going to gather enough evidence to destroy her the way she tried to destroy me. Sarah returned to the apartment that afternoon with a new purpose. She'd spent weeks being the victim, letting Emma control her recovery and her narrative. Now, it was time to turn the tables. How was your walk? Emma asked, as Sarah came through the door. She was cooking dinner, playing the role of the perfect caregiver. Good. I went to that bookstore Marcus mentioned. I thought being around books might help trigger some memories. Emma's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Did it work? A little. I found myself drawn to the mystery section, just like Marcus said. I bought this. Sarah held up a thriller novel. Maybe reading will help. That's wonderful. I'm so proud of how hard you're working to get better. The lie rolled off Emma's tongue so easily. Sarah wondered how long Emma had been practicing this performance of friendship and devotion. Over dinner, Sarah played the part of the grateful, recovering amnesia patient while carefully probing for information. Emma, I've been thinking about my job. When do you think I'll be ready to go back to work? Oh, honey, there's no rush. Your company has been very understanding. They're holding your position for as long as you need. Another lie. Marcus had shown her the termination letter a maid had called Sarah's boss 2 days after the accident, and said Sarah wouldn't be returning due to her injuries. There was no job waiting for her. That's so generous of them. Maybe I should call and thank them personally. I don't think that's a good idea yet. Dr. Chen said too much stress could interfere with your memory recovery. I've been handling all that business stuff for you. You're so good to me. I don't know what I would have done without you. Emma's face glowed with what looked like genuine affection. That's what friends are for. We take care of each other. After dinner, Sarah helped Emma clean up, all the while studying her supposed best friend. Emma was attractive in a conventional way, with the kind of smooth competence that would make her easy to trust. No wonder she'd been so successful at manipulating people. I think I'll read for a while before bed, Sarah said. Good idea. I'll be in my room if you need anything. But Sarah didn't read. Instead, she waited until she heard Emma's shower running, then quietly slipped into Emma's bedroom. She needed to find evidence of Emma's current schemes because someone this skilled at manipulation wouldn't have stopped with Sarah's accident. Emma's laptop was password protected. Sarah had watched her type it in several times. Best Friends 2024. The irony was sickening. The email account that opened revealed months of carefully orchestrated deception. Sarah found correspondence with her former employer, where Emma had been gradually taking over Sarah's client relationships even before the accident. There were emails with Sarah's bank, where Emma had used her power of attorney to access accounts and transfer funds. But the most damning evidence was in a folder labeled insurance. Emma had increased Sarah's life insurance policy just 2 weeks before the accident, naming herself as the primary beneficiary. The policy was worth $500,000. Sarah's blood ran cold. Emma hadn't just wanted to steal her life sheet, wanted to profit from her death. A sound from the hallway made Sarah quickly close the laptop and slip back to her own room. A few minutes later, Emma appeared in her doorway. "Thought I heard something. Are you okay?" "Just dropped my book. Sorry if I woke you." Emma smiled, but Sarah caught her glancing around the room, checking to make sure everything was in place. Even now, Emma was suspicious, alert for any sign that Sarah was recovering more than she claimed. "Good night, sweetie. Sweet dreams." "Good night, Emma." Sarah waited until she was sure Emma was asleep, then pulled out her phone and began photographing. Every document Marcus had given her, every piece of evidence they'd gathered. She uploaded everything to a secure cloud account and sent the access information to Marcus with a simple message. "If anything happens to me, take this to the police." Tomorrow, she would begin the final phase of her plan. Emma thought she was caring for a helpless victim with no memory and no support system. She had no idea she was living with someone who remembered everything and was building an airtight case against her. The hunter was about to become the hunted. The next morning, Sarah put her plan into motion. She needed Emma to reveal herself completely, to make a mistake that would provide undeniable proof of her crimes. The key was making Emma believe she was winning while actually walking into a carefully constructed trap. Sarah said over breakfast, "I've been thinking about something Dr. Chen mentioned. He said sometimes a return to familiar places can trigger memory recovery. Maybe we could visit some of the places we used to go together." Emma's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "That's a wonderful idea. Where were you thinking?" "Maybe that restaurant where we had dinner the night of the accident." "You mentioned we were going there to talk about my breakup with Marcus." Sarah watched Emma's face carefully. For just a moment, something flickered in her eyes' panic calculation. "Not sure that's a good idea," Emma said slowly. "It might be too traumatic, being at the scene of such a difficult memory. But you said we never made it to the restaurant. You were hit on the way there, right?" "Of course." Emma's smile looked forced. "I just worry about overwhelming you. Maybe you're right. But I really want to try. Maybe Marcus could come with us. He said he'd been hoping to reconcile with me that night. It might help me remember what I was feeling, what I was thinking about." Now Emma's discomfort was obvious. "I don't think involving Marcus is wise. You're still so fragile, and romantic complications might please." "Emma, I feel like I'm living in this bubble, and I need to start rebuilding my real life, my relationships, my memories, everything." Emma was trapped. She couldn't refuse without. Seeming controlling but agreeing meant losing the isolation she'd worked so hard to maintain. "Okay," she said finally. "If you're sure you're ready." "I'm sure. Could you call Marcus and invite him? I want this to be a surprise. Tell him I'm ready to start remembering our relationship." That afternoon, while Emma was at work, Sarah met with Marcus and Detective Rivera, the officer who'd originally investigated the accident. Marcus had convinced Rivera to take another look at the case based on the evidence they'd gathered. "This is substantial," Rivera said, reviewing the documents. "Spread across his desk. Identity theft, fraud, possibly attempted murder. But I need to ask, are you certain about your memory? In court, the defense will argue that your amnesia makes your testimony unreliable." "I understand," Sarah said. "That's why we need her." "To confess, I'm going to wear a wire tonight and get her to admit what she did." Rivera frowned. "That's dangerous. If she's willing to commit attempted murder, confronting her directly could put you at serious risk." "She won't hurt me in a public place with Marcus there. And I know how to handle Imi. I've been managing her manipulation for weeks now. What exactly are you planning?" Sarah outlined her strategy. At the restaurant, she would gradually reveal that her memory was returning, starting with innocuous details and building two more damaging revelations. The goal was to make Emma panic and say something incriminating. If I'm right about Emma's personality, she won't be able to resist gloating. Once she thinks she's been caught, narcissists like her always want credit for how clever they've been. Rivera reluctantly agreed to provide the recording equipment, but insisted on having backup officers nearby. At the first sign of danger, we're moving in. That evening, Sarah sat in Chez Laurent, the upscale French restaurant where she and Emma had supposedly been headed the night of the accident. Marcus arrived first, his face tense with worry. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, sliding into the booth beside her. "Sure. Emma's coming." Sarah adjusted the tiny microphone taped under her blouse. Everything depended on getting Emma to reveal the truth without realizing she was being recorded. Emma arrived 10 minutes later, looking elegant in a black dress Sarah now recognized as one purchased with a stolen credit card. She hugged Sarah warmly before sitting across from them. "This is so exciting," Emma said. "I'm hoping being here will help trigger some memories." "Actually," Sarah said carefully, "I think it already is. Sitting here, I keep getting flashes of that night. Fragments of what happened." Emma's smile became strained. "Oh, what kind of fragments?" "I remember being upset about Marcus. I remember calling you, asking you to pick me up from work, but Emma... Sarah paused, as if struggling to recall. "I remember you being angry about something. Not sympathetic like you claimed. You were angry at me. It's impossible. I was worried about you, trying to help." "No." Sarah's voice grew stronger. "I remember now. You were angry because I'd found out about the bank account, about the credit cards, about what you'd been doing to my relationship with Marcus." Emma's face went very still. "Sarah, I think your memory is playing tricks on you. Trauma can cause false memories. I found the letters Emma." The words hung in the air like a physical blow. Emma's composure cracked, just for a moment, before she forced another smile. "What letters? The ones I wrote telling you I knew about your betrayal? The ones where I threatened to go to the police?" Sarah leaned forward. "I remember everything now. The fraud, the lies you told Marcus, the way you systematically destroyed my life while pretending to be my best friend." Marcus shifted beside her, ready to intervene if necessary. Emma's eyes darted between them, calculating. "You're confused," Emma said, but her voice lacked conviction. "The accident damaged your memory. You're mixing up dreams with reality." "Then explain the life insurance policy you took out in my name. Explain why you were driving the night of the accident, not me. Explain why there were no skid marks before impact." Emma's face went pale. For several seconds, she said nothing. Just stared at Sarah with an expression that was part shock, part rage. Then she laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound that made other diners glance over in concern. "You clever little bitch," Emma said, her voice completely different. Now, harder, meaner. "When did you figure it out?" "It's the day I woke up in the hospital. I remembered everything. But I knew I had to pretend, or you'd find a way to finish what you started." "So you've been playing me this whole time?" Poor, helpless Sarah with her convenient amnesia. "It's just like you played me for months before the accident." "Long had you been planning to kill me, Emma? Or was that just improvisation when you realized?" "I was going to expose you." Emma's mask had completely fallen away now. The warm, caring friend was gone, replaced by someone cold and calculating. "You want to know the truth? Fine, I'll give you the truth." Emma's voice dropped to a vicious whisper. "I spent 3 years watching you have everything I wanted. The job I deserved, the man I loved, the perfect life that should have been mine. So I decided to take it all. You decided to steal it. I decided to earn it. I was smarter than you, more ambitious, more willing to do what it took to succeed. But everyone always chose you instead. Marcus, our boss, everyone. So I leveled the playing field." Sarah kept her voice steady, making sure the recording captured every word. "By committing fraud, by sabotaging my career, by being strategic. I would have been content with just taking over your life piece by piece. But then you had to go and discover my bank accounts, and suddenly you were threatening to ruin everything. You decided to kill me?" Emma shrugged, the gesture terrifyingly casual. "The accident was meant to look random. Drunk driver runs a red light, tragic loss of life. I would have inherited your insurance money, consoled poor Marcus in his grief, and eventually stepped into your life completely." Marcus made a sound of disgust. "You're sick." Emma turned to him with a cruel smile. "Oh, Marcus. Sweet, naive Marcus. Do you want to know what your precious Sarah said about you the night I picked her up? She said you were boring, predictable, She was already planning to break up with you permanently? That's not true, Sarah said quickly, isn't it? Or is that another convenient memory lapse? Before anyone could respond, Emma stood abruptly. This has been enlightening, but I think I'll be leaving now. Sit down, Emma. Detective Rivera appeared beside their table, badge visible. Emma Chen, you're under arrest for fraud, identity theft, and attempted murder. Emma's face went through a rapid series of expressions: shock, rage, and finally resignation. You set me up. Just like you set me up, Sarah said. The only difference is I didn't try to kill anyone. As Rivera cuffed Emma and read her rights, she looked back at Sarah with undisguised hatred. You think you've won? You think exposing me fixes everything? Your life is still ruined. Your job is gone. Your credit is destroyed. Everyone thinks you're a mental case who can't remember her own name. Maybe, Sarah said calmly, but I'm alive, and you're going to prison. 6 months later, Sarah sat in her new apartment, too small, but sunny place she'd found with money from the life insurance policy Emma had taken out in her name. The irony wasn't lost on her that Emma's attempt to profit from her death had actually provided the funds for her fresh start. The legal proceedings had been swift once Emma's confession was recorded. She'd pled guilty to multiple charges in exchange for a 20-year sentence instead of life. The evidence Sarah and Marcus had gathered made denial impossible. Rebuilding her life had been harder than rebuilding the case against Emma. Her credit score was slowly recovering, but it would take years to fully repair the financial damage. She'd had to start over professionally, taking a junior position at a small marketing firm that was willing to overlook her. Complicated recent history, but she was free. Free from Emma's manipulation, free from the fear that had haunted her since waking up in that hospital bed. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Marcus standing in the hallway, holding takeout bags and wearing the tentative smile she'd grown to love all over again. Thai food from that place you like, he said. Pad Thai, no peanuts, extra lime. You remembered I remember everything about you. Even the things Emma tried to make me forget. They'd been taking things slowly, rebuilding their relationship along with everything else. Trust didn't come easily after what they'd both been through, but it was growing stronger every day. How was your session with Dr. Martinez? Marcus asked, as they settled on her couch with their dinner. Good. We talked about guilt today. About how I keep wondering if I could have seen through Emma's deception earlier, maybe prevented all of this. And what did she say? That manipulation victims often blame themselves for not seeing the signs sooner? But Emma was good at what? She'd been practicing on smaller targets for years before she set her sights on me. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Ow. Rivera called today. They found evidence linking Emma to identity theft schemes going back 5 years, at least a dozen. Victims, all young women who trusted her. Sarah felt a familiar pang of guilt for all the people Emma had hurt, but also relief that she'd stopped Emma from hurting anyone else. There's something else, Marcus said carefully. Rivera asked if you'd be willing to speak at her sentencing hearing. Tell the judge about the impact of her crimes. Sarah considered this. For months, she'd been focused on moving forward, on rebuilding, rather than looking back. But maybe facing Emma one last time would help her close this chapter completely. Yes, she said finally. I'll do it. The courthouse was smaller than Sarah had expected, sterile and institutional in the way government buildings always were. She sat in the front row with Marcus beside her, waiting for Emma to be brought in for sentencing. When the bailiff led Emma into the courtroom, Sarah was struck by how different she looked. Gone was the polished, manipulative woman who'd played the devoted friend. In her orange jumpsuit, Emma looked older, harder, diminished. Judge Patterson reviewed the case details with clinical precision before calling Sarah to speak. As she walked to the podium, Sarah felt Emma's eyes on her, but she didn't look back. Your Honor, Sarah began, her voice steady, despite the magnitude of the moment. 6 months ago, I woke up in a hospital bed with no memory of how I got there. The woman who was supposed to be my best friend, my caregiver, my support system during recovery, was actually the person who had tried to kill me. She spoke for 10 minutes about the impact of Emma's crimes, not just the financial damage, but The psychological trauma of discovering that someone she'd trusted completely had been systematically destroying her life. The defendant didn't just steal my money or sabotage my career, Sarah concluded. She stole my ability to trust, my sense of safety, my faith in human connection. She turned my recovery from a traumatic accident into another form of abuse. Sarah finished. Judge Patterson asked if Emma wanted to make a statement. Emma stood, and for a moment Sarah thought she might finally show genuine remorse. Instead, Emma turned to look directly at Sarah. "I'm sorry," she said, and for a moment hope flickered in Sarah's chest. Then Emma smiled. "I'm sorry I didn't finish the job." The courtroom erupted. The bailiff moved toward Emma as Judge Patterson banged his gavel for order. Marcus stood as if to protect Sarah, but she remained seated, staring at Emma with something like pity. The court finds the defendants. Lack of remorse particularly disturbing, Judge Patterson said once order was restored. "I hereby sentence Emma Chen to the maximum penalty under the plea agreement. 25 years in state prison without possibility of parole for 20 years. As Emma was led away, she looked back at Sarah one last time. Sarah met her gaze steadily. "No longer afraid?" "Goodbye, Emma," Sarah said quietly. 1 year after the accident, Sarah stood in front of her bathroom mirror, getting ready for work at the marketing firm where she'd been promoted to account manager. Her reflection showed someone who looked older, maybe wiser, but definitely stronger than the woman who'd woken up in that hospital bed. The doorbell rang, and she found Detective Rivera on her doorstep, holding a manila envelope. "Ow. Want to see this?" Rivera said. "We found Emma's journals in her apartment during the final evidence sweep." Sarah hesitated before taking the envelope. "Do I want to know what's in there? Maybe, maybe not. But I think it might give you closure." After Rivera left, Sarah sat at her kitchen table and opened the envelope. Inside were photocopies of journal entries dating back 3 years, documenting Emma's growing obsession with Sarah's life in disturbing detail. March 15th. "Sarah got the promotion I should have gotten. She doesn't even want it as much as I do. She's wasting opportunities that would change my life." June 3rd. Watched Sarah and Marcus at dinner tonight. She doesn't appreciate him. She takes everything for granted. Her job, her relationship, her perfect little life. What would she do if it all disappeared? September 22nd. Started the bank account today. It's easier than I thought to become someone else. Sarah's so trusting, she'll never check. November 10th. Marcus suspects Sarah is cheating. The photos I doctored are working perfectly. Soon he'll break up with her and I'll be there to comfort him. December 8th. She knows. Sarah found the account information. She's threatening to go to the police. I can't let that happen. Everything I've worked for will be destroyed. December 15th, the insurance policy is in place. If she won't let me have her life, then she doesn't deserve to keep it. The final entry was dated the day of the accident, December 20th. Tonight, it ends. One way or another, Sarah's perfect life becomes mine. Sarah closed the journal, feeling strangely calm. For a year, she'd wondered if there was something she could have done differently, some way she could have prevented Emma's escalation. But these entries made it clear that Emma's obsession had been building for years. Long before Sarah had any idea what was happening, she wasn't responsible for Emma's choices. She'd been a victim, but she'd also been a survivor. Her phone buzzed. With a text from Marcus, "Dinner tonight? I've something to ask you." Sarah smiled, typing back, "Can't wait. I have something to tell you too." She had news. Good news. The small marketing firm where she worked had been acquired by a larger company, and they'd offered her a position as creative director. It was a better job than the one Emma had sabotaged, with better pay and more responsibility. More importantly, she'd been accepted into a graduate program in forensic psychology. Working with Detective Rivera on Emma's case had sparked an interest in understanding criminal behavior. In helping other victims navigate the legal system, Emma had tried to steal her life. But in the end, she'd given Sarah something better. A deeper understanding of her own strength, a clearer sense of purpose, and a harder one but more valuable trust in the people who truly loved her. That evening, Marcus took her to the same restaurant where they'd confronted Emma. It seemed fitting, somehow, to return to the place where the worst chapter of their story had ended. "I wanted to bring you here," Marcus said, as they settled into their booth, "because this is where we really found each other again. Not the fake relationship Emma tried to create, but the real thing." Sarah reached across the table and took his hand. "What did you want to ask me?" Marcus smiled nervously, reaching into his jacket pocket. "I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to start a new chapter with me. A real one this time, built on truth instead of lies." The ring box was small, simple, perfect. "Sarah Mitchell," Marcus said, his voice shaking slightly, "will you marry me?" Sarah looked at the ring, not the expensive, flashy kind Emma would have chosen, but something classic and meaningful. She thought about the year they'd had, the pain and healing and slow rebuilding of trust. "Yes," she said, and meant it completely. Dr. Sarah Mitchell Kane stood before a classroom of graduate students, teaching a seminar on psychological manipulation and victim recovery. On her desk sat a copy of her book, Surviving Deception, A Psychologist's Journey from Victim to Advocate, which had become required reading in several criminal justice programs. "The most important thing to understand about manipulation," she told her students, "is that it's not the victim's fault. Manipulators are skilled at what they do. They study their targets, exploit vulnerabilities, and create situations where the victim doubts their own perceptions." A student raised her hand. "But how do you rebuild trust after being deceived so completely?" Sarah smiled, touching the wedding ring that still felt new on her finger, very carefully, very slowly, and with people who prove through their actions, not just their words, that they deserve that trust. After class, she walked across campus to her office in the university's Victim Advocacy Center. The work was challenging, but rewarding, helping other survivors navigate the legal system. Testifying as an expert witness in manipulation cases. Researching the long-term psychological effects of identity theft and financial abuse, Emma had been transferred to a federal facility 2 years ago after being linked to an interstate fraud ring. Sarah occasionally received letters from her, rambling, bitter screeds that the prison psychologist forwarded as part of a study on narcissistic personality disorder. Sarah read them for professional interest, but felt no emotional response. Emma had become a case study, not a source of pain. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "How did the lecture go? Dinner at 7? Perfect, and yes," she texted back. "I love you. Love you too. Can't wait to hear about your day." Simple words, honest words. The kind of mundane, trustworthy communication that had rebuilt their relationship, brick by brick. As Sarah packed up her office for the day, she thought about the young woman who'd woken up in that hospital bed 3 years ago, terrified and alone, pretending to have amnesia because the truth was too dangerous to remember. That woman had been a victim, but she'd also been a survivor. And in the end, she'd become something Emma could never take away from her, herself. But stronger. Sarah Mitchell Kane locked her office door and headed home to her husband. Her real life, her hard-won happiness. Behind her, the setting sun cast long shadows across the campus, but she walked toward the light. What did you think of this thrilling journey? Share your favorite moment in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest tales. What kind of story would you like to hear next?